So this is part of education. This was in a National Geographic magazine. This is the first time they ever had 16 pandas born. And then this was in Paris Match in France. Some of the conservation magazines. I was there after the earthquake in 2008. And then I donate my images to the different nature reserves within China so they can use it for conservation. And these are the black-crested gibbons. And they were trying to raise money at one of the conferences there in China, Hainan Island. And then this the picture of the monkeys won the first place in the Winland Smith Nash Outdoor Photographer Photo Contest, and it was hung or displayed in the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. But that's one way of educating the public, because a lot of people have never seen this animal. And that the fact that they, they're going up there and reading about it is part of the educational process. And then I donate my images, and this was on the internet in China, and it raised over $40,000. $40,000 to help conserve. These are the Yunnan snub-nosed monkeys. And then I have a book called Panda Kindergarten for little kids. So a little story is that, I told the editors this panda is too young to be in the kindergarten. And the editors liked it because the baby was looking out at the people, and the mother, they said, was kissing the baby. And I said, the mother's not kissing the baby. He said, what's it doing? I said, she's stimulating it to urinate and defecate. So on the cover, they took the tongue off. And then we educate the children. These are people, the kids in Woolong, and they've never been down to the Panda Research Center. And this is panda bread that they make down there. So they all got to see how the pandas live and the food they eat. So this is a mother with an 8-hour cub. Wow. And what's educational about this is how gentle that mother is to hold that little baby in her mouth. And it was going to be in the book, but they thought that the people would think that the panda is going to eat the baby.
They are not marsupials.
They're not.
How do they care for a baby like this?
Well, when they're born, I don't have the picture there, but they're born, they're about the size of a stick of butter. Okay, and so when they come out, the mother grabs it, and then she holds it between her chest, her arm, and her chin. And that's where and then she'll walk around like this. And for several days, she doesn't even go out of her den. And so they don't start getting the black until they're about 5 days old. So this cub's about 3 days old. And they take them away. What they do is they watch and see if the mother will take the baby or not. And if they don't, then they take it away and raise it in the nursery. And if they have twins, they'll see which one the mother will take, and then they take the other twin. And then later on, they'll switch. So each baby gets a chance to be with its mom.
So it's common for the mothers to protect the babies?
Well, they have two, and it's really hard for them to be able to take care of two in the wild. So they,
So even when they only have one, sometimes they don't.
Well, they usually have the one and it's healthy, then it will survive. But if it has two, the mother usually takes a stronger of the two. Okay, but here, in captivity, they wait and see which one the mother will take, and then they go in and take the other one away and raise it in the incubator. And then they have, this is at the reintroduction center now. And they have the people wear panda uniforms to take care of them. Not that the pandas think that the people are pandas, but they don't want the cubs to see people as caretakers. They want them to be afraid of people because they're going to reintroduce them into the wild, and they don't want them coming up to people. So many people misunderstand that. They think, well, the pandas aren't dumb enough to think that it's a real panda, but that's not the purpose.
And that's enough of a disguise that the pandas.
Well, that's the best they can do, because you got to monitor these cubs. You got to do something. You have to weigh them, and take care of them, and the mother sees them. I mean, the mother's used to people taking care of them, but as far as the little cubs, and when I was taking pictures of the cubs, I had to wear a panda suit. And then part of the education, now this is the Yunnan stub-nosed monkey in another province, and I try to educate, you know, this is a domestic pig, and what diseases can they transmit to these on the Yunnan snub-nosed monkeys. So that's all. And then going on, and you have to create, I like to create images that inspire people to want to save them. So a lot of them are just cute pictures. Color's a little off on the little brightness.
Now,
That's
did you,
okay.
you took these photos because you had special access? Or, I guess I asked this question before, can a visit, like, can someone like me travel there and visit there and take pictures like this?
No.
Is what I,
You can go there. You can't go to this particular facility, but there are other panda places there, and there are some pictures in there that I took at the Chengdu base where you just have to hang around a long time and be there at the right time, usually early in the morning when the pandas are active.
Oh.
Okay, but not ones like this. Not at least not at Wolong. And some of these we took out and were set up because I shared my best pictures. I gave them the raw and the high resolution JPEG so they could use it for conservation purposes, educational purposes, promotion of their conservation effort. That was part of the agreement.
I think part of what we might have missed is how you originally got over there when you introduced Jerry.
Remember?
How you originally ended up doing this. You were invited by Jerry.
Well, Jerry Ellis was a photographer, and I went to his lecture at NAMPA, the North American Nature Photographers Association, to see, he gave a talk on getting funding for photographing the indigenous cultures. And so I met with him, and then he asked me what I did, and he wanted to do this project with the giant pandas. And that's how I got into it. And we went over there at the peak of SARS, and actually it was pretty neat. Beijing airport was closed. We flew into Shanghai. There was 15 of us on a Boeing 747.
Wow.
Okay, we had to have our temperature taken. The people came in their hazmat suits, took our temperature before they let us off the airplane. Every time we went to our hotel in Shanghai, we had to have our temperature taken. Every time we went out and then went back into Wolong Nature Reserve, we had our temperature taken. But there were no other visitors, and so we were given unfettered access.
Catherine, may I ask if you speak a native language?
Enough to make a lot of mistakes.
I
I can get by.
noticed a lot of Chinese figures in your slides.
Well, that was because I gave this talk to the International Panda Conference in 2018.
And you were able to,
Well, they had translators,
there you go. Okay,
Okay.
just curious.
but I have to address, my Chinese heritage. But so I had to put Chinese in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
This is
My-
interesting.
my grandfather was a national hero in China, and he's opened a lot of doors. But he was the one. Has anybody ever seen The Last Emperor?
Yes.
So it was my grandfather that removed the emperor from the Forbidden City. Okay, he had that much power. And the reason he did that is because Sun Yat-sen founded the Republic of China, but he let the emperor live in the Forbidden City with no power. And then China went through the warlord period, and there were warlords that wanted to put the emperor back on the thrones, and the emperor would give them the power. So my grandfather thought that one way he could prevent that was to remove the emperor from the Forbidden City. But he's also known for his battles against the Japanese, and he's also known for helping the peasants get education, irrigation. He's a really well-liked national hero. And so he's opened the doors, but I need to keep them open. And I try to do a really good job in honor of the family name. So this was taken in another panda reserve.
So this one.
Messy eaters.
Yeah.
Bear.
So this was taken in Chengdu, okay, outside. Anybody could get this that had the right lens and was there at the right time. And this is a red panda.
Did you use flash? Do you remember?
Yeah, I did on some of these animals. At first, we were allowed to use flash, and then they decided it wasn't any good. So, I mean, it wasn't good for them, so then we couldn't use them anymore.
Ah,
And so this is the Yunnan snub-nosed monkeys, and this is from the image that they told you they used on the internet. They got $40,000. And this is from the Sichuan snub-nosed monkeys, and you can see. I mean, it's a cute picture, and you like it, but how I frame it without a focus leaves. And I like to go there in the spring because that's when the babies are born. And before too many leaves come out. And there's that picture that won the first place. So this is a documentary of the black-necked cranes. And it's okay, this is better because it shows you a family unit.
no wonder you like Bosque so much.
Yeah. And so this I took on an overcast day. I was covered with mud, but what really works is that you can see the black-necked cranes, and here, in the United States, the snow geese. But here in China, the black-necked cranes are associated with the bar-headed geese. Okay? And if it had not been a foggy day, this image would not have worked because you can see in the background shadows or the outlines of the farmers. And if it was a farm, the house and the trees, and if it had been a sunny day, it wouldn't have held up. Okay, and also I took a bunch of pictures, but I like the fact that the wings of the bar-headed geese are pointing down to the cranes. So all these things go into play when I take pictures. And this was early in the morning. This is a 6-second exposure. So the biodiversity. Again, the red panda, they share the same habitat as the giant pandas, but they eat different parts of the bamboo. They eat mostly the leaves. The Tibetan macaque shares the same habitat. Greenback tit. This is the red-billed blue magpie. Just think of the name on it. And this is the Tibet Paris plant. So I'm photographing the plants in their habitat. And this is used for traditional Chinese medicine. These are orchids. These are all what I found in Wolong Nature. And this is really neat. This is an Helwingia plant. And what's so unique about it is that the flowers are in the middle of the leaf. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And it's pollinated by the ant. So without this ant, that plant would not be there. So how important it is to the biodiversity, even a little ant. And then this plant is pollinated by flies. This is also in Wolong Nature Reserve. And then behavior of the animals. This is the black-crested gibbons with the long arms, but he walks like a man, but he has these really long arms. They have to hold up. This is a female carrying her baby. Can you see her little baby there? It's a panda. They do all these things. You don't see pictures of them like that. This is the Yunnan snub-nosed monkeys. It is really neat because I go into these nature reserves and they know I don't bother the animals. I don't catcall. I just wait and wait and wait. So they trust me. I can go in there anytime I want to photograph. When the tourists come, then I have to get out and stay where the tourists stay. But before, they give me free access. And then the little baby monkeys are just like little kids. They like to jump around and play. So I like to, in teaching, to give depth to your images. Can you see how the two cubs are in the front, but there's also a cub in the back? And the hair, when they're making the bread, it's, having the pandas in the back, the bread here that they're just making, and then even having a little motion in the hands and how it progresses, having to get the heads separated so they're not merging.
Is the panda bread
food? for the
Yes, it
pandas?
is. And it's made of corn, wheat, bamboo. It's got eggs, it's got vitamins. It's pretty nutritious. But can you see how the line of panda leads you to the back? And then here I'm following these two people trying to take pictures because they're walking down with their panda suits. And all of a sudden they split up a little bit, but how much more effective this image is than the previous one. So I just keep working with it until I get the image I want. Environmental portraits, not everything has to be up close. So this is a female black-crested gibbon. And this is really neat. So I'm photographing the white-headed langurs. And the pointer doesn't work that I have, but can you see? This is where the white-headed langurs live. And you can see there's some here, there's some here, there's some here. So this tells you so much more than just an individual picture. An individual picture is important, but to see where they live is also very important. And you have to, protect and conserve the whole environment. And this is a kapok, the white-headed langurs on a kapok tree. And the leaves, the flowers of this tree come out before the leaves do. And the langurs like to eat the flowers. And here's a family unit. The babies are born orange, so I always go there in the spring. I don't know if you can get rid of that.
You can pull it off the side. You can't totally get rid of it.
And a little comedy, how they're all hanging on to the tails climbing up. But see how steep those karst formations are? And how they jump from this side to that side. And they'll do it the other way too, but these are waiting their turns. And people try to get them just close up, but it doesn't give you the same perspective as when you see the whole area that they're jumping. And this is the Yunnan snub-nosed monkeys in the kind of forest that they live in. In the wintertime, I was just really lucky it snowed. And this is the Sichuan snub-nosed monkeys. This is a male, that's a female.
Are these in the wild or?
They're all wild.
Yeah.
The only ones that are in captivity are the pandas. This again is the gibbon. And I like to include the local people because the local people live either within the nature reserve or in very close proximity. And in Wolong Nature Reserve, a lot of the Tibetan people live there. So I took this picture showing the Tibetan prayer flags in the high mountain. And I use people for size. So this is arrow bamboo. Without that person, you wouldn't know how high that or how tall that arrow bamboo would be. And these are local people, and they're using vine and traditional Chinese medicine. But this is all part of the story, and all, you got to protect these people as well as the animal. And the local people using, this is chicken of the sea mushroom, so they use the natural resources. And the farmers in the valley at Wolong Nature Reserve. But when you take this picture, it's even important in the posture of the cow's legs, because having it bent like that shows forward motion. Can you follow that?
Are the people suspicious of having their picture taken?
Not at this time. This was done in the early 2000s. And then I was there so much, a lot of the people knew me.
Okay. Did you show them the pictures that you took on the back of your camera?
No,
Okay.
because they're working and I don't want to interfere with them. Okay. And then here's a farmer, one of the people they hired to cut the bamboo, but how you get up close and then you see just enough motion that you know that they're cutting the bamboo. And here is one of the local people, but the way you frame it is that the sign here, it's in China. They put those things up shortly after the New Year's, the Lunar New Year. But the clothes that they wear, and the houses they live in. And how they work together. And on these steep hillsides, they're harvesting turnips. And then tourism, ecotourism. And so I had a group up there, a tour group one time, and they wanted to know if it was yak meat. And I said, lady said, yes, it's yak meat. And I said, well, how about beef? And they said, yes, it's beef. Well, all she wanted was the money. It was anything but beef. So then we're going to the white-headed langurs. Again, people. And people have taken, photographers have taken pictures of the mountains. So the langurs live on these rocks. So I wanted to tell the story. So here's a local person. These are the sugarcane fields. You know, there's a mode of transportation. They spray the crops, and this is the sugarcane. Can you see how much more information is given in this image, rather than just taking pictures of the mountains or the karst formations? And then you go on, and here they are harvesting. How lucky, but I work with this a lot. So each person, their legs are moving forward. You can see each of their faces, and they're intent on working. They're not paying any attention to me because I'm there for a while. And then this place was so colorful. I took a picture, and I did return this picture to her. She was so nice. But even there, you can see how I framed her so that she didn't merge with this. So all these things are in my background, in the back of my mind. And this is in Xinjiang province when I was photographing the Marco Polo sheep, and they're playing, it was at a wedding I was invited to, and they had a goat skin. But look at the action of these people, and he's hanging over the side. This guy is holding on to his leg. This guy here is whipping the horse, trying to get closer. But this tells you about the people that lives in this area. Okay, so, and this was used in Ranger Rick, but it's really important, clean up the table, make sure there's pandas up there. And I have the CCRGP, the China Conservation Center for the giant panda. And I had the sign here with the Chinese. So everything is integral to this picture. And at night, so I wanted to be at night, you can see it's at night, but you can see the little panda here, you can see the bottle of milk there. And here where they were taking off a collar, and they brought the cub down. I said, I need to see that you're taking the collar off. If you don't see that collar, you don't know what they're doing. And here they're doing ultrasound. Again, I need the veterinarian with the cord, and I need to see the little baby that they're doing the ultrasound on. I need to see the lady's face, and she's actually giving treats to the panda so that the panda will not still. And couldn't get that in, but you got everything else in. And the same thing here when they're training it so they can get blood samples. So this having the jacket for the giant panda, the treat, the clicker training, everything was orchestrated. And then artificial insemination. This is where my veterinary background comes handy. The pulse oximeter, the ultrasound view. I said, you need to be looking at that. You don't get your hair, don't get your heads too close together. Don't put all the semen in, because if you do, there's going to be people that will say, they know it's an empty syringe, and they get these two things separated. Can you see how that all falls into place? And here, this is the red panda. This is in Chengdu. And again, there was the ultrasound here. He's training him with the whistle. Got treats here, the pandas eat. And this just was a serendipity. That little guy just walked through. But even the motion of his moving forward. And they've used that many times in China. So they trained this panda. The cub the panda was holding that 8-hour cub. This is her, and they were training her to how to take care of the cub.
Training her for the television?
Yeah.
Wow.
She wasn't really looking at the TV. I was on the ground, and she just happened to look that way, and I snapped a picture. But they had a recording of a baby also. And then when they do the reintroduction, I don't want to create more problems. And so when they went out to get this cub, it was a young adult at this time, to reintroduce to the wild, I knew it was going to be a zoo up there. They didn't need another person. A lot of the news media from China was up there. So I just stayed down below and got this image, which shows you how they transport it down. I didn't need to be part of the chaos. That cub was afraid as it was.
Are they generally successful with reintroduction?
They're getting better and better. When they had some mistakes the first time, but they learned from the mistakes. And then here, I was they were poaching raptors in southern China, and I was working with another NGO, and they were looking for injured raptors as well as on his hat, so he's an official. And then how important it is to get that drop of water. And here they educate the public. And it's just lucky that she wore green. If she wore red or yellow, it wouldn't have the same impact. And then she's pointing toward that. That's green. How to just get their head separated a little bit so their eyes didn't merge, or the nose didn't merge with the eyes. You think this is easy, don't you? So this is back at Woolong Nature Reserve, and this is the enclosure. And it's just a fence, and the thing is that fences are not necessarily barriers. So I'm up there, and there's this fence that I have to photograph with. So you use the widest aperture you have and put it right up against the fence. And that's the picture you can get. You wouldn't even know the fence was there, would you? Field ethics. This is what I feel is really important. So again, your presence should never alter an animal's behavior. And this is where the black-necked cranes were. And these two people, they didn't have the right equipment. So they're trying to photograph the black-necked cranes. The cranes you can see are all and these cranes are overwintering there, and food is scarce. Okay, and they don't need to be flying off numerous times because photographers are getting too close, because you can impact the survival of an animal this way. And then this is a TV film crew. And one thing you'll notice is when I take these pictures, I don't include any identifiable people, because my purpose is not to get people in trouble. It's to show the behavior that you shouldn't be doing. And this is a lizard, and they wanted to film this lizard, and they kept picking it up and picking it up. And this lizard, anybody could tell that lizard was stressed out. And it was stressed out because what the film crew was doing. And I was taking these pictures, and they got angry with me, and they didn't want me around them anymore. But this is the one I took. So you can see how much at ease he is. And then this person wanted to have a picture. And I don't do anything to the plants, but this photographer ripped off the sleeve. Anybody? A leaf and two flowers. Anybody that knows these plants will know that that individual has torn away that leaf just for a photograph. And this is in Yunnan province in the nature reserve, and they're picking flowers, which they shouldn't be doing. Now these people are good, so you can see their faces, and they're standing outside of the farmers' fields as they photograph the white-headed langurs. And this person is not. And then these people are tromping on the sugar cane. And these people, the farmers, are just barely making a living. And you can imagine how they feel when people come with thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment and tromping down their fields. And this is a little story on my part. I was there, this is the white-headed langurs, and this farmer was digging up all this vegetation and digging these holes. And I had to use dictionaries and everything else to find out what was going on, but they were planting a type of commercial eucalyptus trees. and they go straight up. And if the trees, when they grow up, they block all the sun coming down, so there's no butterflies, there's no birds, there's no greenery. And the langurs live on these rocks. And it's really important that they have a view of the surrounding rocks, because if there's a male there, the male with his family will move off. Because if a male comes over and takes over a family, he'll kill all the babies, run the male off, kill all the babies, to bring the females into estrus. So I went up there and asked them what I could do, and they said, well, the nature reserve only controls the rocks, but the farmer controls the land. So I went up there and asked one of the farmers, how much do you want to not plant the trees? And we agreed on the price. And this is a really nice story for me. So I told the nature reserve director that I would rent this land. Well, I asked this guy, his father spoke, he didn't speak Mandarin because he's older, but the son spoke Mandarin. And I asked him, how much do you want to not plant the trees? And it was like $15 a month. So I told the nature reserve, someone told him, he doesn't speak English, I would rent that land for 10 years, but he has to come out and draw up the agreement. And this father owns the land, wants his son to come out and work it. Son wants to stay in the city, okay? But he doesn't want to leave his father out there. And when the nature reserve director told the forestry bureau what I was doing, because of my grandfather's name, they convinced the forestry bureau to do more. So not just the nature reserve, but the forestry bureau. So the forestry bureau rented leased a much larger area for 30 years. And so for my $15 a month, this man, the older man, gets a reasonable income for the rest of his life. Okay, the son gets to stay in the city, and I save the habitat of the white-headed langurs. Oh, cool. And they gave him these pictures, so they use these pictures locally to show how the nature reserve works with the local people. And then this is what it looked like a few years later on, and all the vegetation is growing back.
So what province is this in?
It's in Guangxi, southern China. And these white-headed langurs, they're critically endangered. They're only in this nature reserve is 3 little spots. And so I was telling Doug, we ought to be using videos, because videos can tell a lot more. See if I can get this going. So this is the white-headed langurs. And in those still image, you can capture this. You can hear the rain. I was the only one out there because it was raining, and there was nobody else out in the rain. But not only the baby, but you can see the grooming, the other langurs licking the minerals out of the rock. But this little baby is really cute. So all the females will take care of the baby.
That's mine.
That's fine.
It's so cute what happens here. You can see how effective the videos are, and using more and more people are using videos for conservation. And this one I took in Bosque.
That's good.
And I show this because this was taken at dusk, and you couldn't have gotten a decent image if you had tried to do it as a still. It was getting pretty dark there, wasn't it, Doug?
Yeah.
It was pretty dark.
So the first picture of this bill was taken out from this video.
It was just the video not,
The video.
not running.
But this video tells more than any still could show you.
The sound effects are so impressive that you get that in the video.
And you know, in a video, I can shoot that at 60th of a second. You're gonna start shooting that video, Doug?
I think I might. Did you pick a 60th of a second, or
I did research and that's what they say to use.
so you have the option to pick the shutter speed between a certain range?
Right. And then this one, is because, again, this is in Bernardo. And this is comical. You can never catch this with a still. So I would encourage people to, you know, if the cameras can shoot video, to start trying to use it to expand it. And then this is just some pictures for you to enjoy. This is about 5 days old because he's getting.
And Catherine, you said that they den up? They have dens that they live in?
No, they live in the trees, but the females will den up when they're gonna have their babies.
Okay, and that's terrestrial land?
Yes.
How seriously endangered are these animals?
Actually, now they're vulnerable. The giant pandas have been taken off the endangered species and categorized as vulnerable. Thankfully to all the research, but also what China's been doing.
Have you? Helping?
I hope so. So this little cub, you know, I was in there, and this cub, this picture took an hour. I waited for an hour and a half in front of this incubator. I just sat there, and he's not waving, he's sleeping, and he's yawning, and as he's yawning, he's moving his arms, and I just happened to catch it at this time. But it took me sitting in front of this incubator an hour and a half. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Can I go over?
no, I think you're fine. We have one question so far from Zoom. Barry wants to know, are pandas susceptible to COVID and are they vaccinated?
I don't know about COVID, but they do get distemper. Okay, and so several years ago, maybe 2016 or 17, at one of the facilities, research facilities, they had 5 pandas die of canine distemper. Okay, and unfortunately, you know, China rules from the top down, and those poor pandas, the veterinarians wanted to euthanize them, put them down, but they couldn't because they were afraid of criticism from the government. And so they kept them anesthetized until they passed away, because once they got the seizures, there's nothing you can do. And so that's how one of the things I did as a drug mule, I brought over the vaccine. So what they do is, it's species specific. So the vaccine for the dogs, and then what they use for the pandas are vaccines for ferrets. Because the ferret vaccine, the antigen titer, do you know what an antigen is? The antigen titer, which simulates the antibodies, the body to produce antibodies. The antigen titer in the ferret vaccine is like more than 100 times that dog vaccine. So everything is species specific, not size specific. And there's only one company that makes ferret vaccine, and that's here in the United States. So I was hauling over all this vaccine for the giant pandas until I got caught.
Was that a problem going through customs?
Well, I didn't declare it, but because it wasn't allowed. First of all, the vaccine, well, you weren't supposed to. But the thing was, because it's a biologic, okay, and it's a type of vaccine where they take the stemper part of the virus that stimulates the immune system, and they put it on a canary pox virus. So it's a GMO, and that's illegal in China. And only canaries get canary pox. So it's illegal to get it in there. So I was doing this and doing this several times. And then finally I was bringing over 800 doses. And I had this big cooler, and the lady at the customs, you know, she said, open this up. And I pretend I know no Chinese. She says, what is this? Vaccine for pandas. December, but what happened, it was one of the better things that could happen. Because I didn't get in trouble. They took a picture of my passport, my visa, my veterinary licenses,
And your name.
my name, and the letters from the veterinarians from the different nature reserves saying they needed this vaccine. So once they got it, and the year before it was for Wolong Nature Reserve, and the year before Wolong was elevated from a provincial level to a state level. And so when there was the Department of Agriculture and the pandas are from the Department of Forestry. And after having 5 pandas die, the agricultural department is not going to say no to the forestry department that they can't import the vaccine.
So they learned the lesson from the death of those 5 bears.
Well, because if they got it again, they could say it's because you didn't allow us to have it in, then they would get into a lot of trouble. So once they did the hoops, it took a long time, they can now get it in without my having to bring it in. And I did bring it in one time for another facility, and she had to go to Beijing to get permission from the agriculture department. And the guy there says, we know her. And then she goes to the customs department in Chengdu, where I was entering, and they go, we know her. And then I get off the airplane, and I go to immigration, and I give her my passport, and this lady looks up and says, I know you. So I said, okay, we have to do everything by the books. But yeah, I don't know about COVID, but I know that they cannot, and the thing is, kill vaccine doesn't stimulate the immune system very well. Okay, and you cannot use a modified live virus. Here in the United States, for the canine distemper and parvo, they can use the modified live. But the pandas have gotten parvo from modified live virus. So that's why this one, the vaccine for the ferrets is the safest one. Does that answer your question? Big one? Well, this is one nature reserve is pretty far out in the country. And they think maybe a dog brought it in, they came in with one of the farmers, something like that. And they also have a lot of monkeys, primates up there, and they don't know whether the primates could have got it, yeah. So, but they were really careful whenever I went in there. I had to go in this room and be fumigated.
Are there any more questions from Zoom?
Anybody else? Well, I hope you enjoyed it.
Here. Questions here.
One of them is crazy about pandas, so we've been to Chengdu and went to the Panda Research Center, whatever. Are there any other places not too far from Chengdu would be worth to try to go photograph pandas or?
The Chengdu base is very, very nice. And the guy that started that many years ago, he was very forward thinking. Now he's moved up to this, they're trying to do like 3 provinces, this panda, reserve. But the Wolong Nature Reserve also has some satellites. And they have a place in Bifengsha, which is south. And the enclosures there look pretty normal. I mean, pretty, like, yeah. But the ones in Dujiangyan, where Dujiangyan is, well, that's west of Chengdu. And both the Chengdu base has a a center there, satellite there, as well as Oolong. But that's more wall, and trees, but the one in Feng Shan looks natural. Okay, Oolong looks natural. Okay.
More questions?
You wanna go back? You
What?
go back?
I want to go back, but I'm waiting for COVID. And part of the problem right now is I may be able to get back to China, but the airfare is too expensive. They quadrupled the price of the airfare. And I used to fly over business class. I got a bad back, so I can't sit for 14 hours. And I used to fly over there for like $6,000 or $7,000 round trip to Chengdu. And the last time I looked, it was like $30,000. And there's no way I can afford that. And I used to fly using frequent flyer miles for 175,000 miles each way. And then it went up to 450,000 miles each way. So it's just cost prohibitive right now.
So let's mention some of the publications. Nat Geo.
Yeah, when they were up there
I didn't notice Nat Geo was up there.
with the 16 cuts.
Yeah.
So the little 16 cuts, they wanted to take the whole wanted a picture of the 16 cuts together. So they set it up for me. And I wasn't technically happy with that picture. So I told the Panda Club, I'll give it to you, but don't let anybody know I took the picture. So I'm back there again, and there's a Nat Geo photographer there, and he's talking to me, and he couldn't get the access that I had. But then he's talking, and he said, well, I need to find out who took a picture of the 16 pandas. And I said, well, why don't you come to my room tonight? And it was my picture, and I made a double page spread. So I went to the Panda Club. I said, why did, because they had, the Woolong Nature Reserve. Panda Club took credit. So why did you take credit for my picture? He says, well, you told us you didn't want anybody to know that you took it. Okay.
But when it's National Geographic, you can
You
tell.
can
that.
tell.
And my thing is to help Woolong. So I got paid for that picture. It wasn't a whole lot of money because I wouldn't give them exclusive rights to perpetuity. You got one-time rights, but I split that with Woolong Nature Reserve. I said, you set it up for me, you deserve to get half of the money I made. So it's a lot of it is building bridges. Okay?
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
Again.
Again.